She is a long-distance friend who is on the other side of the world, but she is a girl with the same heart as me. She loves personal branding, but she's a serial entrepreneur and has a couple of businesses as well. Thank you so much for joining me, Lauren. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. And I just think it's so cool that technology can like bring the whole country together.
Oh yeah, I love this.
The whole world. The whole world. Yeah, the whole world.
So cool. Lauren and I actually met through a mastermind. Oh gosh, that would have been early last year, before all of this pandemic stuff happened. And yeah, we've just kind of stayed connected ever since. And so Lauren, tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do.
Sure. Okay, I'm from Rockford, Illinois, which is nearby Chicago, about 90 miles west of Chicago. And when I was 19 years old, my husband, now boyfriend then, and I started a record store. We were kind of going out of town often to go see music and to go find vinyl and cool gifts and like purposeful products. And we were like, why don't we do this ourselves? And so we kind of brought that to our community. We got to know our community better. We started, along with the help of a bunch of local business owners in our community, we started a non-for-profit for local business owners to help bring small businesses to the forefront of our community. And then in 2010, I started a small marketing and graphic design consultancy, which has really blossomed a lot more into this marketing space where I help everyone from small business owners to podcasters and speakers and personal brands really develop their marketing strategy, really develop that personal brand and shine through with the stories that they were meant to tell.
Including your husband's, because I love your setup when you go behind the scenes at your store and you've got your kind of, I think it's a homemade tripod where you've got cameras all over the place. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. I've worked with him a little bit on developing even his personal brand because I think he's got a great presence. People love him. They love to get to know him. And so we host a vinyl happy hour show every Thursday night where we talk about vinyl and bring people to get to know vinyl and get to know the different music that's coming out each week. So yeah, we do that too. That's at youtube.com/Culture Shock Rockford. So that's fun. That's definitely a fun video if anybody ever likes to, stay up to date with music and what's going on in the music world.
You do well getting your husband to get on board with that, because mine's just a bit like, oh yeah, you do that.
Yeah. My husband is kind of like, well, I'll just do what she says.
Yeah, mine's he's very comfortable at the other end of the camera and helping out and everything. But when you try and kind of make him the focus, it's kind of like, oh, do I need to? It's like, no, you don't need to.
So funny detail, actually. I am in the marketing space, in this personal branding space. However, Skylar, my husband, is really like the person who doesn't mind being on camera. He's the person who doesn't really mind being extroverted, going and networking at different functions and stuff. And I like to bring him with me because he talks a lot and then I don't have to talk as much. But it's funny because people always think like, oh, I might be the social one or I'm the social butterfly. And it's actually not true. He's definitely more of the person who is out there and talking. And what I can tell you from this is that I intentionally push myself to be more social, to connect with people. And I find that the connections that I make with people are very close, very connected and aligned to who I am as a person. I don't often go deep or have a meaningful conversation with that I won't stay connected with after that, So what I try to tell people is like, yes, if you're introverted, you can absolutely network. You can absolutely talk to people and be yourself and be exactly who you are in the personal branding space. You can build your brand if you're introverted. You can have a podcast. You can go to conferences. You can travel by yourself. You can do all of those things while also being an introvert, while also maybe being a little bit camera shy. You can show up on video. You can do all of those things and nothing has to really hold you back.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think the pandemic and lockdowns, countless lockdowns that we've had have kind of shown that there's a lot of people that you wouldn't expect have shown up, and they've shown up in ways that are incredible, and we're really getting to see their personality. Because like you said, they're not comfortable in a room of 200 people, but they're quite comfortable to have that conversation with their microphone, or maybe they'll get to the stage with their camera, etc. There's massive opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity right now to to lean into tech. So like lean into different tools that can help people succeed using online tools, because people they need it right now. There's a lot of people who are learning some technology things for the first time. And it's a great opportunity to help them learn that and figure that out, whether that's digital marketing, strategy, tech tools, all of those things. But then secondly, like the pandemic has taught us all how much and how meaningful it is to create those real relationships that last. There's no more of this fake passive relationship building anymore in 2021. Like nobody wants posting and ghosting profiles or direct messages that are just spammy and robot-y. We're all so tired of those things, and there's no passive relationship building anymore. It's not going to happen. So 2020 and 2021, the beginning of 2021, has really taught us like how impactful and how meaningful relationships are, and how nobody has time for nonsense anymore. We all only have time for the real things that matter.
Well, you and I are a great example of that. When we're on the other side of the planet from each other, yet we're connected and we're doing this conversation. The world isn't as small as, where you can actually see anymore. You can have a global network, and it can, you can actually find your people, which I think is, especially for an introvert, sometimes when you're in a small town, you don't find your people. It's quite hard because you can't get, over that barrier. So I think that, technology has opened up for us. As much as technology has given us lots of bad things, there's a lot of good to it as well.
Yeah, and always, it is always, I think, necessary as entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you feel the same way, to just kind of push yourself to do things once in a while that might scare you a little bit. Like, and I'm not saying like take risks that will like destroy your life, but I'm saying, every once in a while, oh, there's a cat. Once in a while, take risks that or push yourself to do things that you might not that where there's the chances are it will improve your life. Like I was totally terrified when I started my graphic design and marketing business. I was like, and when I started my when I first started working on this non-for-profit with a few other local business owners, I was kind of like, who's gonna listen to me? Like, I was 23 years old at the time, and I was like, why would anyone look at me as their leader when, a couple of the business owners were like, you should be the president of this organization, you should take it head on. When I started my business, I was like, well, why there's all these agencies in town with more experience and more years behind them. Why would somebody hire me to do this? And I had to kind of take myself out of that thought and say, they're hiring me because of their relationship with me. Maybe they're hiring me because they want something different. They're hiring me because maybe I'm more approachable to connect with at that time, or that's what they needed. That's what they wanted, someone to like really listen to them, or someone who is working. Maybe they just wanted to work with someone one-on-one and not one to an agency or something like that. So at the time, the best piece of advice I got was just that there's enough room for everyone to succeed in business in this world. And once I thought about that and like really wrapped my head around that thought, I was like, you know what? There's enough room for me to succeed. I'm going to succeed in this business, and I am going to lead the way for something I'm passionate about, which is small businesses and local businesses. I'm going to lead the way and teach people how to do social media in a way that feels very connected and very aligned to who they are, and not just passive and slimy. And the people who don't like that style, they don't have to hire me. And the people who do like that style are going to come to me, and they're going to find me. And I had to lean into that really scary feeling of, is this something that I should do? Is this something that would even benefit me, and just kind of put tunnel vision on and just keep going. And that's, that's definitely something that I still continue to do every day. Like, I still continue to lean into those things, still continue to lean into those scary things. So
yeah, I think that's a really important point that you've made there, Lauren. And there's lots of people that are probably listening thinking, oh, but there's someone who already does what I want to do. There's someone who does it better. And you're so right. There's always room for someone else, because you'll do it with your own flair. You'll do it differently. You'll attract different people, because not everyone is everyone's cup of tea. And I think that's the part that people miss. They see, and that's the danger with personal brands, is that people who have got really strong personal brands, it can be intimidating for new people to get onto the playing field, because they think, oh, there's no room for me. But everyone's got the same opportunity to be able to build that. You just can't compare yourself to their 5 years down the line and you're like 5 minutes into the story.
Right. Yes. You can't compare, and comparison will always steal all the stuff all the meaningful stuff inside you. So just don't even worry about it. Just stay focused on becoming the best idea of who you are. And I saw that Andrew posted, it is important to have competitors. It is totally important, and it's healthy to have competition. It's healthy to have people out there that kind of push you to be stronger and be like even greater than what you could be, right? But comparison is a lot different than competition.
Oh, yeah, completely. And, the fact that there are competitors out there and people doing what you're trying to do means that there's a need for it as well. So it kind of shows that there is a space and you can fill it. Now, Lauren, let's reverse all the way back. You're sitting in school, you're about 15 years old. What were you thinking you were going to do? Because I'm sure it wasn't a record store and personal branding.
No, it wasn't. I actually really wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a writer. And I wanted to write like the hard news pieces, the ones like without opinions or anything like that. I just wanted to write like really good, well-written journalistic pieces. And I'm not saying opinion pieces are not well-written. They're all well-written, but I really wanted to write those hard news pieces, and I wanted to write in New York or Chicago. I think a lot of girls had this dream from watching Sex and the City. But that was definitely my dream. I thought, okay, I'm going to move to a big city. I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to write for a newspaper or some kind of publication. And then, I don't know, I actually remember this one teacher I had. He was my government teacher, and I don't know if like I learned much about government in that class, to be honest, but he would encourage us to doodle in our notebooks. On purpose. Like, he was like, I want you, while I'm talking, I want you to like draw pictures and doodle your notes out. And I was like really creative thinking back on that, to have a teacher ask us to do that. And I remember I like did that because I was actually like, this is actually a way that I retain information. I was like, this is great. So I would doodle in my notebooks, and then he would essentially grade us on our doodles instead of grading us on like a homework or assignments. And I remember going to like a counseling, like not a counseling, it was like parent teacher conferences, and he pulled my mom aside and he was like, she's not gonna be a writer, she's gonna be an artist. And I'll never forget that, because it just like stuck in my brain. I was like, I'm not gonna be an artist, I've never even taken an art class, and then fast forward to 19 years old, I'm running this record store, and I'm doing business cards, and I'm creating these flyers, and I love it. And I'm like, what is this that I'm doing? What is this job that I'm doing here? And I came up with graphic design and marketing. And it was like a light bulb clicked on. I was like, oh, this is the kind of artist I'm supposed to be. Like the artist that puts together designs, like well-designed pieces of information that help support businesses, that help support people, that bring people the right messages. And then my journalism background and like all of the work I put into being a writer, which I did continue through high school, being on newspaper, working on my writing, all of that information really helped me when writing copy, and honestly helped me a lot with design and how we receive information and receive messages. So even though what I thought I was going to do when I was 15 didn't quite work out, I feel like it all kind of works out in the same way. It kind of all means something later on. Once you figure out what the meaning is, it does mean something.
Definitely. And I think being able to write, and especially in this day and age, having good copy is essential, because, you know, your website, your social media channels, they're your first port of call for most people. You know, like we've been talking, you've got a global network. It's not just people that you meet in the street that you can actually have a conversation with. And to be able to actually articulate what it is that you do and who you do it for in a meaningful way it's a massive skill. And it's one that, you know, a lot of people fall short on. So that's a cool skill to have. Really cool skill.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that I'm very passionate about. And you know, starting that design and marketing business, now here I am. That was 2010. We're now in 2021. So I'm celebrating 11 years in business this year. And I can't even fathom that. That's so interesting to me that, you know, time goes by and how many people I've been able to work with and just experience their stories and experience their businesses and how they're helping the world and how they're showing up for the world. It's really important and meaningful to me. It's very meaningful work.
Have you ever had a job, like, so because you were 19 when you opened the record store, so yeah. So as an adult, have you ever had a boss?
Not as an adult, no. I worked at a chain bakery from the time I was 16 through a few of the first couple of years of our record store, because my husband and I both took on part-time jobs to just make our record store work, like make sure we could keep the lights on and keep the doors open those first couple of years. And so I worked at the same bakery that was like a chain restaurant from the time I was 16 until I was about 21. And then I would work there. I would wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, go open the bakery or do the prep work for, like, you know, slicing tomatoes and lemons and all of the stuff for sandwiches. And then I would leave at 11 a.m. and I would drive as fast as I could to open up the shop at noon. And I would be there at noon. Then my husband would get off from his middle of the night job working at a gas station. He would drive home and then he would take a nap, and then he would come down to the store and relieve me. And then I'd go take a nap. It was like crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Like when people ask us like, oh, wow, you're so lucky to be in business for 15 years. I'm like, yeah, we are lucky. We are so lucky that we made it through those years, because that was intense, and I'll never forget it. I will never, ever forget.
But the hustle's real at the beginning. Like, I know that a lot of people talk now about, oh, you don't need to hustle. It's about the lifestyle and stuff like that. But it is hard work at the beginning. My first business was when I was 21, 22. I'd come back from university from a country town in Scotland. So I went back there. I wanted to do events. It wasn't big enough to be able to, there was no jobs there in events, basically. And so I started my own events company, and I started bringing events that I'd seen in the city when I'd been living down there for uni back to my hometown. And that was great. And then the next thing I wanted was a cafe, which had this venue at the side of it. And I didn't really want the cafe. I wanted the venue, because I was like, I want to have my own space to be able to do events as well. So my poor mum got roped into helping me with running this cafe that I wasn't interested in, just so I could have the venue. But I was working a full-time job as well. So I had my events business. It was like events and marketing. And this was when Facebook had just started. So I had half the town I was looking after their Facebook profiles, because it was brand new, and I'm just, I don't know, I thought it was great. Whereas if you ask me to do anything on Facebook now, I don't know where the buttons are. I just don't use it very often. So I'm doing this Facebook and events, working for this other company, an outdoor activities company, and then on my lunch break going up to this cafe to make sure things are okay, and then straight after work. Like, the hustle's real. Like, at 21 you've got the energy for it, at 33 not so much. But, you know, people don't appreciate how hard you've got to work at the beginning. And sure, that business doesn't exist anymore, because I'm in Australia, it's the other side of the world, and I've started something new. But that all builds up. It's all part of what I'm now doing, because I've got that experience and you've gone through it. So I can have some nights off.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I believe that hustle culture has a slight issue, you know, like the culture of like, you just have to work and work harder than everyone else, and then you'll survive. I don't think that's necessarily true. But I do think sometimes it depends on how much you want something, how hard you're going to work for it. And we were young, and I think we were just dumb enough, honestly, at that point to like be like, let's give it everything we've got. Like, let's get 0 hours of sleep and try to make it happen. And we're so glad we did, because now we have this record store that's been featured in magazines and people drive to it from all over the country. And we feel so lucky and blessed to have that. And we were just sitting actually at a restaurant a couple weeks ago talking over coffee, and we were having a conversation and like remembering some of the things that we did, because we moved twice our location. We had floods that we had to overcome, but there were like a few things we were trying to remember, like, oh yeah, I remember that we didn't have air conditioning for that whole like year and a half, or remember, all these like little things that we just like have already forgotten how hard it was to start a business. But it's because it was worth it. It's because it was worth it to us in the end. And that's why we don't even think of those things. We don't bring them up or say, oh, look at everything we've been through or anything like that. We're like so proud of where we got, because we knew that when we started out, we didn't know anyone. We didn't have connections the way we do now. We didn't have money at the time. We had barely anything. We just had this barely scraping by goal for the day. And we said, hey, if we can reach this barely scraping by goal and sell this much product for each day, then we can at least afford to just pay the rent and the electricity. And if we can do that, then we can build on that. So that was what we did. And it's amazing. I don't talk about that story often, but it's really deeply personal. And I think that is what gives me such a huge passion for supporting local businesses and for supporting small businesses, because I can work with personal brands and podcasters and speakers and all of that. But starting a brick and mortar business is a lot different, as you know, having a cafe and venue. Starting a brick and mortar business is a lot different. And a lot of times small business owners, they don't feel generally as understood when it comes to how to market themselves and how to really put their message out there and their purpose out there. And sometimes they just don't know where to start because they're wearing all of the hats and they're doing everything themselves. And so I really have such a huge heart for local businesses and small businesses because of my early start and because of where I came from.
Yeah, and you're so right there, because why most people start a business is because they're really passionate about whatever that thing is, but they forget about the marketing side of things, because you can have the best business, but if no one knows about it, it might as well not exist. That's the hard thing. Yeah,
completely.
Thank you for sharing that story, because I think that's what Personal Branding Exposed is all about. It's not really about what it is that you do today, because I can go to your website and I can read all your great copy and see what it is that you actually do. But the story of how you got there is super exciting, because I think that that's great. Like 10 years on, you've still got this record store, and 10 years, if you think of what's happened in that time, we've gone online. So the fact that you've got a brick and mortar store that actually still runs and people come into town for, that's massive. That's to be celebrated.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how deep you want me to go into about the record store, but we're very invested in representing smaller and independent companies that make a difference or that give back. And we've been doing that since our start. So it's not like a new trendy thing we jumped on the bandwagon for. This is like how we've always been. And I think that is part of the appeal of our stores, because I know Skylar and I definitely wanted to make a difference with the store that we had. We wanted to make a difference with what we're selling and support small businesses like us, So we made it the stuff that has been sold in our stores changed over the years. We used to be a little bit more punk rock and more metal. Now we're a little bit more light and bright, I would say. But for always, we always supported those smaller companies. We always supported those companies that like nobody had heard of, but like we thought everyone should hear of. And so that has always been a major appeal, I think. For a brick and mortar store, that's like, find your unique propositioning your unique value. That is really something that nobody else has. That was for us what we had that other people didn't have. You could buy vinyl online, you could buy products at Target, you can buy whatever, you can buy fun gifts anywhere. But what made us unique was our ability to pick out those companies that you never knew existed, that you may have not even known you needed, but that make perfect gifts, or that will make someone smile, or that will make you happy, and aren't just some mass-produced consumer goods sitting on a shelf.
They're the best things, the things that you didn't know you needed.
Yes, exactly.
Talk to me a little bit about, so you're about 2 hours away from Chicago?
Yeah, around 2 hours from downtown. Mm-hmm.
And so how big is the town that you live in?
So the area of the city that I live in is, I think it's the third largest city in Illinois. So it's pretty big. The surrounding area plus our city. So there's like about 5 cities that are really we're all pretty close. We all go to each other's cities all the time. It's, I think, around 350,000 people. Okay. So it's quite a few people. It's quite big, but it feels like the biggest small town ever. Like, we know everybody. Everyone knows everyone in Rockford, Illinois. And it's like, if you drive down the street and you look in the car next to you, you might see somebody you know.
Yep. A little bit like Perth. Perth is known as a big country town. Once you know one person, you know 7 other people just by default.
Yes. That's how that's honestly how it feels in my city. It feels like it's a big city with a lot of people, but you somehow know everybody.
But you've still managed to crack it. That's what I think is really incredible, because at 19, like you said, you didn't really know anyone. You started building up your connections of business community. And now, like, I only know this because we're connected on Instagram and stuff, but you are a spokesperson for small businesses for your area. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. So that comes through with my non-for-profit that I founded with several other business owners in town around 2010 as well. So that was the thing that I was like, I'm not sure if I'm meant to be a leader here. Like, who's going to listen to a 23-year-old? But I was the person willing to take it on and to say, local businesses deserve a piece of the spotlight. Not just my business, but all local businesses. That we need to lift them up, because they're actually the framework of our communities. They're what drives our communities and sets us apart from every other community out there. It's what makes us not a cookie cutter place to visit or shop or live or tour. It's our local businesses really make our county unique and where we live unique. And so I wanted to really shine a light on them. So we do that through networking events where we bring local business owners together and let them connect with each other and get to know each other. But then we try to bring an educational element to that. So we'll bring in a speaker, or we'll put together a panel for it. So that way, the local business owners that are coming to it are not just simply networking, but they're actually getting some kind of form of education out of it. And then we also plan this amazing event through that non-for-profit called Social Rock, which is a social media marketing conference. And I bring speakers in from my travels all over the country and all over the world. I try to get them to come to Rockford and speak to our group. And I've had amazing success with the speakers I've been able to bring out, and they've been so kind to us. And so the local businesses and the small businesses around our whole area, but we did have people travel in from quite a few places, but they get to have that kind of high scale educational conference experience that they would get if they could leave their local business or small business and travel for a week or whatever.
So that just didn't exist. You've basically created, it sounds similar to what we might have here, like a chamber of commerce or a business network type thing. You just created it from nothing.
So there is a chamber of commerce here, and our group is just super focused on just local businesses. So local grassroots businesses, and chamber of commerce also has its own unique function and its own responsibility to the community, and they focus on a lot of different businesses, a very broad range of businesses. So ours is really niched down, and it's really, really educational. And chambers kind of change no matter where you're, depending on where you're at. But our chamber here is great. But Winnebago by Local, which is the name of this group, my group, we just really focus in on those grassroots, started from scratch local business owners.
Yeah, incredible. I love that. I was just curious how it started, because I know when I started my business and I was about 21, so a young girl as well, also had the same problem as you, who's going to listen to me? Not many people. And it was the first sort of 6-9 months was really hard, trying to even have conversations, especially with businessmen, established businessmen. So I had actually at that point started, it was really small. There was like 20 of us. But then there was only 6,000 people in my town, so that wasn't too bad. And it was just for women that had started businesses, because we were all facing that same problem where we couldn't get in a room with the men, if that makes sense. And after we've been doing that for about 6 months, we were actually being invited to things after that as a group, and individually as well, because we were starting to get noticed. And I guess that's where I started the whole personal branding thing without even knowing it, because that wouldn't have even been terminology that I understood back then. But it was definitely from I don't know who to speak to, and I'm getting the door closed in my face every 2 minutes because I'm just fresh-faced and you don't know what you're talking about. It's hard.
I feel like we've lived very parallel lives. We're the same age. We both started our entrepreneurship journey around the same time. We both started with brick and mortar businesses and started networking or small business groups. It's really interesting.
Yeah, but
on different sides of the world.
Yeah, but completely different, but lots of similarities. And it's just because it just shows you, it doesn't matter whereabouts in the world you are, we have similar issues, which is why we need these groups, which is why we need personal branding. And I think personal branding is like the most important thing in your marketing toolbox, because it's something that you'll carry with you forever. But honestly, up until about 18 months ago, I didn't even know what personal branding was. I knew I was doing it, but I wasn't calling it that. So I think that's where we've got a kind of shift at the moment, where people think it's about self-promotion, being a Kardashian, being internet famous, getting as many likes as you can, when it's not. It is really about, you could just be famous, I guess, to 10 people, but you're making an impact to these 10 people and making a difference, and then they'll go on to do what they need to do. That's what personal branding is. It's not about having 10,000 followers. Like that's also personal branding, and that's it scaled up. But when we think about it at its essence, it's really just getting in front of the right people that we can actually help. And you and I have been doing that for years without even knowing it.
No. Yeah, one time I heard Seth Godin say Seth Godin's like marketing and genius author, very iconic. He said something once at a conference. I saw him speak, and he said, it doesn't matter if you're famous, it only matters if you're famous to the family. And what I think what he was saying was, or how I interpreted it, I guess I would say, was that you don't have to be famous to every person out there. You don't have to build a personal brand that has hundreds and thousands of followers and 100,000 email addresses and all of these different things. You don't have to have any of that. You just have to influence the core group of people that you want to help and that you want to serve and that you want to truly help them live their ideal life. And you have to get really clear about what you want out of your business in order to build that personal brand. So doesn't matter if you're famous, only if you're famous to the family.
Well, you're famous to me, Lauren.
You're famous to me as well.
No, but I think that's incredible. And if anyone who's listening, if you take one thing away, it is that, Lauren, as an introvert, started a business, a brick and mortar business, very young. And it wasn't just about her. She actually has built her personal brand around bringing everyone along on the journey with her. And I think that is, if anyone's doubting why they need a personal brand, that's really it. It's not really always for you. It's definitely for everyone else around you and what you can do for them. So thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your story. I've loved chatting to you. Loved it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so much fun, and I'm just really grateful to have been able to take part in this.
Thank you so much, Lauren. So you can catch Lauren over on Instagram. That's probably where you're the strongest. I'm always pushing that everyone should be on LinkedIn. She is there too, though. And your website, Elle Davis Creation, isn't it? So
Instagram is Elle Davis Creative. You can also go to elledaviscreative.com for my website, but it's laurendaviscreative.com. And if you are interested in more personal branding topics, I also have a podcast called The Real Personal Branding Podcast, and it is so much fun. And I get to interview so many amazing people. And I think, Megan, you're booking an interview soon, or we've talked about it. So maybe we'll get you on as an interview soon too.
Awesome. And I'll put all of those links onto the show notes as well, so you can definitely check out Lauren. Thank you so much. Have a great day.